Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How is everybody? Hope you're all well. Hope you're having a good week. So you join me again for another exploration of a tabletop role-playing game. Which one are we taking a look at tonight? We are going to explore the ninth world as we unbox the Numenera starter set from Monte Cook Games. Very much looking forward to sharing this game with you because it's not just the starter set we're going to look at, we're going to delve a little bit deeper. This is going to be an epic game in epic proportions to share with you. Now, of course, with any of these explorations, I always like to do a bit of a caveat that I am no role-playing game expert. I played RPGs back when, in my college days, took obviously a long break, and so I'm coming back to them now, exploring what the genres have to offer. All the many different themes, the many different styles of role-playing game that are available, and already on the channel we've looked at so many over this past year. So this is the latest one, even though this game has been out for quite some time. If you do have any questions about the game, or you'd like me to look at a particular aspect in a little bit more detail, then just leave a comment in the chat and we'll take a look. So, Mystical, are you all set and ready to join me? Yes, you think so? All right, let's bring you on in then. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very excited. But
this game looks so good.
It does, doesn't it? It does.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
we haven't even started yet, and we're already getting giddy about it. It is a big game. It deals with really, really big themes, but oh my goodness, the excitement levels just, exploded as I was starting to explore through it over the weekend. Let's just say hello to Martin there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So then, let's jump to the table because I've got quite a bit of it set out in front of me here. Here we go. So what do we have? We found this with quite a few games that you can get yourself a sort of cut down starter set for roleplay game systems to give you a bit of a taster, to get you into the system, to get you an idea of the sort of themes that you and your players, if you are the GM of course, would experience. As a bit of a prelude then to getting the core set. Now, the core set does feature these two massive books. They're over 400 pages per book. We have the Numenera Discovery and Destiny. You get them both together in a wonderful slipcase. I'll just show you that. So, this is the slipcase that you get. In essence, the Discovery book is the core rules. This is what you would read first. Everything that you need to play is within this book. The Destiny book then drills down with more detail, expanding the types of characters you can do, expanding the items that can be picked up, and fleshing out the ninth world even more. What I was doing over the weekend is I was taking a look then at the two books that are within the starter set. We have obviously book 1 and book 2. And it does advise you to read book 1 right at the start. And book 2 does say at the front of it that if you are a player, stop reading now. No, seriously, stop reading now. Give the book to the GM. I love the humour that is within here. It absolutely talks to true players, it really does. The writing's
That is
very good.
amazing.
So I did have
so
a flick through because I had to do so. But this contains the adventure that the starter set has, of course, it being for the GM, gives the GM all the information. It includes some creatures, it includes some more items, and just fleshes things out just a little bit. But in essence, as a player, you would be wanting to take a look at the book 1. Now, having gone through that, I can see where they have this is an edited version of elements in the main book. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the digital version, because as we have discovered that many games, of course, come with a digital PDF, so you can have the physical book, and then you could maybe have the PDF on your maybe a tablet or a phone, and you can use the quick links to go and find important points. So we'll take a look at that as a digital version, but following the essence of what is within the starter set. So I'm going to have to give myself a little bit of room here. Within the starter set, you do get a D20. Essentially, the game is a D20 system. There is a D6 for restoring health during the course of the game. We do have some XP cards here that are given out to players. There are also, I just want to make sure I get the terminology correct, a GM intrusion, which we'll explain a little bit about as well. And then finally, we have a number of character sheets. These are preset characters with this wonderful artwork. I particularly like this one just here. I think that's quite stunning.
Oh, wow.
We will take a look at the art in these books, and my goodness, the quality of the artwork, it's up there with some of the best. It really is. It's quite amazing. So, of course, because these are predetermined characters, they have all the abilities all set out. It's characters to get you into the game straight away. So let me just move these to one side. Give ourselves a little bit of room. As I say, we do have these the 2 core books. Again, what I really liked, just little things I want to point out here. Each book comes with a bookmark that does then have important elements that you might want to refer to with the page numbers, which is great. Really, really handy. So I thought that was quite a nice touch. And like I say,
That's
we'll
neat,
just
especially if like you specifically use that one to mark what you're like currently doing, and like make it so that that bookmark relates to what you're looking for.
Yes. Well, that's it.
That's fantastic.
There's a unique bookmark for each of the books. So it's relevant. It gives you the page numbers for the relevant sections within that book.
That's fabulous.
Martin's just saying, I like the Numenera system. How long have you been playing it for, Martin? Because I believe that the system it's over 10 years now. This was a system developed or designed by Monte Cook, which of course of Monte Cook Games. In fact, it was on the back of this game that the company was formed. It uses what they call the cipher system, and we'll go into that in a little more detail. The layout is really, really easy to read. It has nice little call outs throughout the book so that you can sort of reference little points, maps. Like I say, we will look at the art in more detail because it is absolutely stunning. I'm just going to show you that just while I flicked onto that page and just let you wonder.
Yeah, 'cause it's great. It's fantastic. Stop.
I mean, Is that a weir shark? It might as well be. So there's plenty to look at. But right at the back here, we do have this wonderful fold out poster. I possibly am not going to do it all. Oh, actually, there we go. Is it actually attached? I think it is
pretty.
Attached. It's attached to a little bit. There we go. Oh, there we go. So here we go.
Oh, wow.
We do like a good map, don't we, hey? So
yes, very much so.
We'll go into more detail as we go through, but this is the steadfast, and this is where typically our characters would start from. This area is the known area. This is the beyond. This is the wild area beyond the mountains. And then we have the beyond.
Oh gosh.
We'll talk about that later on. And we'll talk about the geography of the ninth world as well, because that just blew my mind when I was learning about it. But yeah, we got this wonderful map which helps you sort of visualize all the towns and villages and some of the geography there. Okay, let's put that back. Just like so. Right. So if I take us onto the digital version. Aha, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through the book with you, and I will be able to point out the aspects that are part of the actual starter set, because in effect they sort of replicate some of the areas. Oh, gone too far. There we go. But we have, again, it's always nice when you can have an entire game table of contents all on one page. It's very handy. But again, as I say, it is many of the main points are highlighted on the bookmark that you get with it. And there's just one thing I want to sort of call out, because it's part of the introduction by Monte Cook, and I think this is a good starting point to keep in mind as we go through. Technology that seems like magic. That's where our good friend Arthur C. Clarke comes in with his words of wisdom. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and that's the core idea of where Numenera comes from. And that really is, that speaks volumes for this game. So always sort of think back to that. So we'll dive on in. There is an opening story here, the Amber Monolith, which gives you a good idea of the setting and how the characters might play within the actual game framework, these sort of stories that can be told. And then
I definitely think if you're not one of those people who tends to read through a game book, you just go to like character creation, stuff like that, take a minute and actually read this section, because it is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
No, that's a very valid point. With the game in its entirety, because there's a lot of games, I suppose, that you kind of sense that you can wing it because you have a reasonable understanding of what type of game this might be. Oh, it's a sci-fi game. Okay, well, I've seen and played lots of sci-fi games. I'll be fine. Oh, it's a fantasy game. The same. This game, its setting is kind of so original and so mind-bending. You've got to read it. You'll get the most out of it by doing so, for sure. Most definitely. So it does have this chapter 1 here, Welcome to the Ninth World, and this is really important. There have been 8 previous worlds. You may refer to them as ages, aeons, epochs, or eras. Each former world stretched across vast millennia of time. Each played a host to species whose civilizations rose to supremacy, but eventually died or scattered, disappeared, or transcended. But each left behind remnants. The Ninth World is built on the bones of the previous 8, and in particular the last 4. So this is where, at first I thought this was all about some sort of sci-fi world, but it's not. It's Earth, but millions of years into the future. And that instantly got my imagination going. I'm thinking of Planet of the Apes to some degree, but I think even that is too small a scale for what they've done in this game. Would you agree? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. To me, it was Planet of the Apes and Destiny kind of rolled into one, like that kind of advanced technology, and that is exactly where my mind went. And I was like, "Oh, this is so cool."
Yeah. I mean,
so many fantasy games are all like different worlds or different planets. It's not usually Earth.
Yeah.
It's like Earth 2 or something else, but this is our Earth. Like, this is us. This is what has happened to us.
But well, that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's because it's so far into the future that there's nothing recognizable to us as 21st century humans. And I remember watching a little video, and it was talking about how obviously the different layers of history get compacted and ultimately just disappear. So, the possibility of a civilization before us, if it was millions of years prior to the human race, there could have been one. It's just, it will have been overtrodden by by everything else that's happened to the planet, that there would be nothing to show for it. Given all the layers of rock and the oceans forming and shrinking and reforming, it's just lost to time. There's no evidence whatsoever. And so I really love that idea that this is, potentially so far into the future that, our skyscrapers, so it's not really post-apocalyptic because it's too far in advance. Maybe humankind as we know it now evolved, left the planet, populated other planets, got wiped out or just disappeared, and now this new life is now on planet Earth in its new form, because the actual continents of the planet have moved around as they do, and have formed a supercontinent. So it's not Pangea as was for the dinosaurs' time. It's now come round again, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's so cool to read about. They came up with something that you don't see often, and it's fabulous.
Martin's just saying there, it is so far beyond the Planet of the Apes. Yes, agreed. Because that's the thing, the Planet of the Apes, they still had elements of 20th century man. So, of course, the spoilers, the Statue of Liberty. For anyone who's not watched it, I'm just ruining the film for you. But of course, that still existed. That statue is long, long gone. Yeah, it's an amazing sort of concept, but can also be incredibly challenging as well, can't it? How do you describe a world where any of the things that we might associate with no longer exist? I thought of it as just a simple thing. There's no such thing as dogs. Dogs don't exist anymore. I know. There's something equivalent, so maybe the people of the Ninth World have some kind of pet that they have domesticated and it travels around with them as a loyal companion, but it's not a canine dog. That is long gone.
Don't tell Sarah.
Yeah, and I thought that's really, really interesting. And of course, I suppose, just being people, or being humanity, there'll be some things that would still carry over, I suppose. But yeah, the notions of, computers and things like that, well, they certainly don't exist because this world is effectively in a sort of medieval sort of stage of its development, even though it is surrounded by super, super, super advanced technology. But they only have a sort of medieval understanding, and this technology is something that they acquire and they try and use and discover what it might be, but do not have the understanding of what it actually was back for the what would be they would consider the ancients. Yeah.
So fun to think about, just it's so cool. I can't.
It is, isn't it? It really does. It gets your mind going, and of course that was something that I really, really like about role-playing games, is that every time we look at a new one, there's something to get excited about as it sort of triggers your imagination. Martin's saying they need to make a movie in the Numenera world. Yeah, wow, my goodness, that would be quite something.
Cool.
That would be something.
I would go see that.
Yeah. So, talking about the things, because it's all about discovery. It's about discovering these items that potentially you can use to better your life. It's less about discovering what those items actually were for, because their needs are, well, no longer there, but how we can now use them for our current lives. And so there's three sort of classes. There's artifacts, ciphers, and oddities. And it explains here that artifacts are large devices that typically can be used more than once to produce the same world. So an artifact might be a belt that creates a shield of invisible force to protect the wearer. So ciphers are usually small, minor devices that most characters can coax a single effect from before they are depleted. And it gives you a couple of ideas. And then oddities are relics that are neither ciphers nor artifacts, and they serve no obvious purpose, but have strange functions that are at least curiosities. Could be used potentially as some kind of currency. And I was trying to think of, what type of things would people dig up in ancient ruins. And again, I'm instantly going back to, well, there would be no ball caps. This is the thing. Everything that you say probably wouldn't exist because it's long gone. But
that's not true, because it could be like pottery, because that is it. I mean, look how far back pottery goes.
Right.
So that type of ceramic. So maybe just like in some D&D settings, ceramic is the currency, because that just lasts through the ages, because you're always going to be building something out of that type of clay because it's easy to do.
Well, here we go. I suppose the only thing that has survived millions of years is dinosaur bones. Because what else has survived? Now, see, if you think of sort of primitive humans, so, you know, flints, they have survived, but you're only going back, what would that be? 10, 20,000 years? It's a small amount of time compared to the millions of years that this game is depicting. So yeah, bones might survive, and again, it's only saying maybe four civilizations worth, but anything else, technology. So it'd only be maybe the very most recent one where maybe some of the things. It's got to be something permanent, something massive, or something made out of a material that is practically indestructible. Those are the only things. So plastic bottle tops, yes.
Yeah. But I mean, pottery has been around for about 30,000 years. But that's when we started learning how to use it. And that's what we have found and been able to date back. Who knows if it was around like prior to that, right? That's just the latest we've been able to find. So because pottery, like when it's fired or when it's heated, it's going to last because it has. So if it's lasted already in our time right now that long, if not longer, I don't see that it couldn't last into this world. And that, like, you just like little shards of it. This would be like your lower amounts of currency, right? Like you'd have to have a lot of them to make up a dollar type of thing, but you know, just for quick things.
Yeah,
it was I definitely think that would be something that would last around.
Martin suggesting that the items that we would find that would be indestructible in the ninth world would be iPhones. But
no, not iPhones. Definitely not iPhones, but like Nokia, yes, or Motorola or something.
Nokia brick phones. This massive cache of Nokia brick phones.
Yeah, that's what it is. Definitely not iPhones. They break from like nothing.
Yes, but a good old, a 1990s brick phone. Yes, that will have survived a millennia for sure.
Run those things over with a car and they survive. So.
But what an amazing concept. I mean, it does have a little bit of a section here looking at the ninth world from the 21st century, so it's worth reading to try and wrap your mind around it because, mind blown. Great concept. But does require the GM and the players to, sort of get their heads around it and sort of acclimate into this new world, because it's hard to sort of take anything that you've done previously into this. There is a very, very handy bibliography at the back of the book that gives reference to a whole load of books, and I think there's some movies in there as well to help you try and sort of, okay, how can I picture this? Okay. So it goes on to then how to play, and it does say here the rules of Numenera are quite straightforward at their heart, as all gameplay is based around a few core concepts. And I just want to try and just go through this in a simple way, because it does give an example. I might actually just go and grab the, I'm going to grab the starter here, because that does help. Just, here we go. So, how to play. So basically, the player tells the GM what they want to do, and this is the character action. So every player has just one action during each round. The GM determines if that action is routine and therefore works without needing a roll, or if there's a chance of failure. If there is a chance of failure, the GM determines which stat the task uses. So your characters only have 3 stats, which are might, speed, or intellect, which makes this game just super easy right away, doesn't it? And the task's difficulty, so how hard it will be on a scale of 1 from really easy to 10 basically impossible. The player and the GM determine if anything about the character, such as training, equipment, special abilities, or various actions, can modify the difficulty up or down by 1 or more steps. If these modifications reduce the difficulty to less than 1, the action is routine and therefore works with no roll needed. If the action still isn't routine, the GM uses its difficulty to determine a target number, how high the player must roll to succeed at the action. The target number is always 3 times the task's difficulty. So a difficulty of 4 task has a target number of 12. To succeed at a task, you must roll the target number or higher. And then 6, the player rolls a d20, and if the roll is equal to or higher than the target number, the character succeeds. Okay? And that, essentially, is everything you need to know. It's super easy. It's really straightforward. We'll go into a little bit of more detail, but as you can see on the page there is this really handy guide as to the task difficulty, a bit of a description to it, and a little bit of guidance, and obviously what target number you need to roll over. So anything that is routine that anybody can do at any time takes nothing. It can just happen straight away. Anything that takes a little bit of skill, then you obviously have to roll for it. So let's do this now, because we like doing examples. What sort of task are we going to put our imaginary players into here, Amanda?
Oh, let's have them climb something.
Okay.
Scale a building.
Okay, so the scaling a building, is there maybe some sort of trellis fence type thing to give them extra footing, or is it made out of material that is there's no handholds? What do you think? What type of
I think let's go with like brick that's kind of offset and pushed out a bit so you can like grip it, you know?
Okay, so there's
grouting.
There's a little bit of ease to it. Now our character then, I mean, anybody can climb, right? We can all have a go at it, but whether it is easy for us, it might be determined by our sort of skills. Or, you know, do we do a lot of climbing? Does our character do that naturally, and hence they would have a bonus? Or is climbing something that they don't do at all? We have to think a little bit about our character, don't we? So what do you think? Are we going to make it harder for ourselves or easier?
I'm all for let's do it, like it harder. Let's try harder. Let's see what happens.
Okay, so what we could say is that, so here we go, a standard difficulty of 3 requires a typical task requiring focus. Most people can usually do this. So most people could climb like a fence, but we're talking about maybe going up a couple of a reasonable distance on a house, aren't we? So we're definitely going into the sort of demanding. It requires full attention. Most people have a 50-50 chance. So I think we're maybe going we're going into the demanding stroke difficult area, because if we've got no training, you know, I wouldn't like to necessarily try and climb up to a first floor without any, you know, things to sort of help my ascent. I think that would might pose a little bit of difficulty. So yeah, let's say that the GM would say that this is going to be a difficult task, so hence we have to roll a 12 or more. We don't have a climbing skill, so we can't actually push it down by 1, making it a demanding. So it's still going to be difficulty. So we would have to get 12 or more. Let's give this a go. Let's see what we get. Oh, you see, this is where I use up my luck of dice rolls.
Yeah.
I'm using them now, but when I need them later in the week, I'm going to have really, really bad dice rolls. I mean, another sort of example might be, what would the difficulty rating being trying to get a date with Natalie Portman? That probably...
I think that would be...
That might have been
quite difficult.
That might have been a 10, as in... Oh, hang on, that's the one. It might have been a 10 as impossible. A task that normal humans couldn't consider, but one that doesn't break the laws of physics. So there's a slim possibility, but most normal people could not achieve it. Granted, of course, situations have changed, so actually it possibly could be challenging or maybe intimidating. Let's give it a go, because I fancy my chances. So we're going to say this would be an intimidating challenge. Let's give it a go. 18 or more. Oh, it's an 8. Failure.
It was worth a shot.
It was worth a shot. Okay. So that's basically how any task within the game is sort of dealt with, and that goes everything from climbing buildings to going across treacherous rope bridges to using a ranged weapon. You basically determine, or the GM determines, a level of difficulty. If you have any skill that might help you with that, you can potentially reduce the difficulty. If the GM determines that things are actually making it harder, say for example you are trying to fire a bow and arrow from a moving platform, that might increase the difficulty, and then the player rolls the dice, and the GM doesn't necessarily have to tell you what the target number is, but obviously will then tell you whether you succeed or not. And so it does go into a little more detail here, talking about when you roll and combat, talking about the damage that's done. So damage within the game is preset depending on the type of weapon. So light weapons inflict 2 points, medium 4, and heavy weapons 6. And it goes into more detail as to those different weapon categories. Interesting point that I noticed on this is that the GM doesn't roll any dice. It's the player who does all the rolls.
Which I think is really, like, exciting.
Yeah. Why is that? Why do you see that?
Well,
as
because the game is completely in the player's hands. Whereas most games, you're having to worry about what the DM is rolling.
Yes.
So I think it's a nice change.
Yeah. There are bonuses should you roll a 19, a natural 19 or 20, and there is of course the negative of rolling a 1. It goes into a little detail on that. And so this is where the core book differs. So that first chapter is pretty much in the starter set. But, the first 2 chapters in there. So chapter 3 is where the core books differ, because it's all about actually creating your character and explaining all the different aspects regarding the character's stats, understanding the might, the speed, and the intellect. Then there's also your pool, your edge, and your effort, and these can be used to try and make those difficulty tests easier for you to manage, where you can give values depending on what you're trying to achieve. You can reduce the difficulty, and it goes into a lot of detail on this. And it does go into a lot of detail on actually creating your character. Granted, of course, in the starter set, all of this has been done for you. The focus on the starter set is more on actually just playing the game and just working within the rules in a sort of light sense. Now, your character type, or, you know, as in other systems, maybe character class. There are only 3 character types in this first book, which is the glaive, which could be summarized as more of a warrior style of character. And there are various tiers, to which those tiers add more abilities to that character type. And again, lots of detail. So you could have a lot to read here before you decided that that was the type of character you wanted to do. The next character type is the nano. Nanos are sometimes called mages, wizards and sorcerers, or witches by the people of the Ninth World. So a nano sorcerer is a common term with their abilities referred to as nano sorcery. So this is what I think is really, really interesting, and again takes us back to that Arthur C. Clarke quote, is that this world, even though the people are in that sort of medieval setting and mindset, but the world that they inhabit is full of technology, but to the point that they actually don't necessarily understand what it is. But there are some people who do just have a little bit of understanding. They know that to do a certain sequence on maybe this wristband might then produce an energy field around it. And of course, to everybody around them, that looks like magic. They look as if, or feel that they're sort of putting out a sort of symbol of patterns that is the incantation to create, when really they're just using this device. And I think that's just a brilliant, brilliant idea, and something that I recently have seen. It's in the TV series Foundation, which is based on the is it Isaac Asimov? I hope I've got that name right.
Oh.
So, you know, one of the I suppose that one of the extremely high profile science fiction writers of, am I going to say 1950s, somewhere around there? Maybe someone in chat can correct me on that. But in essence, there's an element of a because it's a bit of a spacefaring race. There are these 2 characters who are perceived as wizards and monks, but use technology, and it looks to simpler people as magic, and so they're revered as if they're blessed by the gods. But really, they're just using some really, fancy high tech. And so instantly, I thought of that with these nano characters. They're able to manipulate the technology and the nanites that are around the world, because of course these various civilizations, they have got to a point where they have mastered advanced technology, but of course they have long since moved on, but that tech is still there, still active. I mean, as it says here, in truth, nanites are literally everywhere. So sometimes these spirits take on a devastating manifestation called the Iron Wind and move through the air in clouds, which can be far more dangerous than any conventional storm. So yes, they're effectively manipulating nanotechnology, but to everybody else it looks like magic. I think that's really cool.
I mean, magic is just science that we don't understand. That's the view
Exactly.
of it.
Yep. Yep. It's really cool. And so, again, there are multiple tiers to this character class, so you can see how your character will evolve. Lots to look into. And then the final character type is the Jack. And Jack, you know, in essence is Jack of all trades, but it says here Jacks are intrepid explorers. What I was saying here is they're typically, you know, I sort of read this more as a sort of roguish type of character.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you agree? So yes, it does say here they could be artists or rogues or scouts, treasure hunters. So that gives you a sort of an idea. So we've got, you know, the warrior type, we've got the mage wizard type, and we've now got the rogue, the thief, the hunter, the ranger sort of type. And again, goes into more detail. Good evening, Roger. Did you, when you looked through, did you pick a particular class that you like? Which one did you go for?
Yes.
I'm assuming it's the nano.
It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a pretty easy one for me to be like, yep, this is me.
Yep. Okay, so then it goes on to character descriptors. And the descriptor defines the character. It flavors everything you do. And this is how we start fleshing out our characters. As I say, in the starter, all of this has been done for you. So it's quite a lot for you to go through if you want to create your own. And then we have character focuses. So this is all just filling the character out. I'm going to sort of move past this a little bit. But again, it's just there's a bit of artwork just on every page, which is great. Really like it. And if you take any time to just look at the art and try and imagine, because of course that's the point, isn't it? It's beyond our sort of comprehension. And we'll get to howls at the moon. Sometimes the Numenera is a double-edged sword. You are cursed and blessed to be able to transform into a powerful creature, drawing additional mass from a trans-dimensional source. That's we haven't quite got to that point, and it's later on in the book. Again, it's in the part where it's fleshing out what the actual world is, but there was some key points, and it's like, wow, that is just so good. But this is just hinted on it. Additional mass from a trans-dimensional source.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. So we've got all these character focuses. I'm just going to skip through these. It's quite a lot. And then we get to equipment. Or I think, have we got to that? Yeah, it looks like that's equipment. Yep. We're getting some nice tables here with lots of different equipment. So we've got some light weapons such as clubs and daggers, medium weapons, broadswords and javelins. Heavy weapons of great axes and sword staffs. And then other equipment, musical instruments. Everybody needs a musical instrument.
Yeah. Gotta have those. You gotta have that lighthearted mint, right? It's just.
Absolutely. So, after that, we get to the playing the game. So this is going back to the starter pack. This is where it starts, and as you can see, this is how you play Numenera. those 6 points that I went through. Because we've now got a little bit of understanding, and we've obviously ultimately created a character as well, having gone through those rules. And we're talking about the how to take different actions and determining the difficulty, which we've already gone through. How to modify the difficulty using skills and assets and effort. Those are the 3 elements of being able to modify task difficulty. And we spoke about the special roles, minor effects and major effects. When you do a roll, if you get anything, if it's in combat, if you get a 17 or 18, you can add additional damage. If you get a 19 or a 20 in combat, again, you add even more damage. But if it was a standard test, then that's where you get the minor or major effect. And this is ultimately being able to accomplish that task with a bit more flourish, a bit more pizzazz, which hopefully is to your benefit. Now, this is the thing that I didn't talk about, is if you roll a 1, this is where the GM intrusions occur. And essentially it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's gone completely dire, but it does mean that the GM gets to have a little bit of fun, basically posing a sort of a complication to you. So maybe you were doing an attack, you rolled a 1, and you fumbled your blade out of your hand. So now you've got an additional challenge of you've got to go and pick your sword up, haven't you, to be able to continue your attack, which of course delays you. But then saying that, maybe you have another weapon that you're able to pull out of. But doing the intrusion, it does allow. Now, if you roll a 1. It happens because you have kind of fumbled, but the GM can do intrusions throughout the game and actually offer you XP. Did you catch that aspect of it?
I missed that.
So
I didn't realize that they can do it and offer you XP. That's really cool.
It suggests that as a GM you should possibly do a couple of intrusions per character within a game session, so everybody has a little bit of a moment to shine. See, that's one of the most important points of the game. You do not get XP for combat, right? There's no reward for killing as many adversaries as possible. The rewards within the game are for discoveries and for being able to doing things where you've overcome challenges. So if you, if the GM poses an intrusion to you, the GM will give you 2 XP. You would keep 1, and you would give another XP to another player. But you've got to justify the reason why you're going to give that XP to that other player. So maybe they did something previously in the game that were contributed to the party that was really, really useful. So here's your reward. You can, if you already had XP, you can say to the GM, no, I'm going to spend 1 of my XP that I've not spent to not take this intrusion, to stop you from doing so. But of course, you don't gain the XP that would be offered up. And I believe that the maximum XP you can have in the bank, so to speak, is 10. So the game does encourage you to use your XP, spend your XP. You can use it for various bonuses throughout the actual playing of the game. So the one I've just described, I think you can use your XP to do a reroll, and ultimately, of course, to improve your character out of sort of game session. Yeah. So those are.
I like that it uses it as a currency. That here you want to use this to stop something bad from happening, or to you really needed to succeed on this roll, but you fumbled. and here's the intrusion, but you can spend an XP to stop that and be like, no, I want to redo that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, really nice.
So we got lots of rules here. The rules of the game, it's a convenient chapter, isn't it? And yeah. It's saying all about how you can sneak around, the various actions you can do. And here we go. I think are we at the right page? No, I've skipped ahead a little bit. Is that the one? Yeah. GM awards. So this is your XP. So expending experience points, the immediate benefits, player driven awards. So explains a little bit there. And of course, using your XP, that's how you advance to the next tier of your character. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very reminiscent of a rule somebody came up with for D&D, which is make a deal.
Right.
Where you can, at any time, a player can choose to turn any roll into a natural 20.
Oh, okay.
But that then means that the GM can then, at any time, turn any roll into a natural 1.
Right. Okay, that's cool. And in fact,
it very much thinks of that.
Yes, there's a similar system in the Star Trek role-playing game. But if you get an advantage, then the GM can have one as well. Yes.
I think it keeps things balanced, because too often things will go one way or the other. And it's just a nice way of balancing things.
Yes. Yeah. So, once we've gone through all of the rules there, we're on to part 4, and this now talks about the setting of the game. And again, this is where I was spending most of my time because I was just loving all of this. And I guess this is what's going to really bring you into the game, isn't it? So as it says here, the 9th world is Earth, but it is an Earth that has undergone multiple dramatic changes, for it is an Earth approximately 1 billion years in the future. So over that nigh incomprehensible span of time, nothing remains constant. Add in the rise and fall of civilizations so great that to us they would seem again nigh incomprehensible, and anything is possible. So it lists here these, so I just want to get here. Yeah, I mean, I think you go. The perspective of change. When attempting to grasp the 9th world, there are 2 complementary shaping forces to keep in mind. First is the vast amount of time. Even if Earth was left completely alone, the drastic changes of celestial mechanics, continental drift, erosion, mass extinction, and evolution would render our home unrecognizable. The second force is that of intelligence. Over the billion-year span, the Earth has been home to at least 8 civilizations that have arisen or arrived here, flourished, and advanced to incredible power, and then either declined or left, never to return. Although we know little about these civilizations, we do know the following. And I thought this was brilliant. So here we go. At least one was the center of a galactic or perhaps intergalactic spacefaring empire. At least one wielded the power of planetary engineering and stellar lifting. At least one had knowledge of the fundamental forces of reality and could alter those forces as they wished. The very laws of physics were theirs to play with like toys. At least one filled the world with invisible, molecule-sized machines called nanites that could deconstruct and reconstruct matter and manipulate energy. At least one explored the multiverse of other dimensions, parallel universes and alternate levels of reality. And at least some of these civilizations were not human. Now, you know, I could do any one of those and have a fantastic time. This world has them all. And that's, wow, that's just amazing. Because anything is now possible within this world, isn't it? Really?
It is, and like it does prove its own challenge when you're playing the game because of the fact that anything is possible.
But
so you kind of have to figure out as a GM where you draw the line of what you're going to allow from player creativity, just because there is so much that can happen.
One thing that helped me when I started reading through that, and again, you know, you're going to pull in influences from things that you've seen, watched, read, played. So one game that instantly came to mind was a PlayStation game called Horizon Zero Dawn. And are you familiar with it?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on my shelf.
Right. There you go. So that has helped me get an idea of what's this Earth like, because it's a kind of a similar sort of setting, isn't it? Even though those characters, I suppose we would see them more as not prehistoric, but you know, early Neanderthal man setting, even though they are more advanced. But they are in primitive camps using spears and bows and arrows, yes, but primitive versions. Whereas the Ninth World is more in the medieval sort of setting, so more advanced, but still both of those settings have an incredibly high level of technology that they have access to, but they do not understand what it is or what its original purpose was, but they use it for their immediate use. Yeah. And so that really helped. So if anybody, you know, yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn is a good place to sort of try and help ground this idea. Saying that, of course, in Horizon, they still have some of the structures available, and I suppose, yeah, again, it depends when the 8th world, when they what's the span of time since that 8th world, because of course we still have all of the ruins, but it's only a 2,000, 3,000, well, actually pyramids of what, 5,000 years, is it something like that?
Oh, so that's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's as far as back as our structures have kind of survived. So again, it gives a wonderful example of I think it's in the preface, talking about two monks walking, and as the camera pulls back, you realize that they are walking on this massive cog that is part of this immense machine that is actually part of the land, you know, that they're walking upon. You know, this ancient civilization had mastery over essentially everything, didn't they? It does talk about that there is a network of satellites that still function, but they function with systems that the population, the majority of the population, do not understand what they are or how they would work. Some people, however, have gone down into areas under the ground and can make these things do things that appear as magic. But they are not quite sure what they're doing, but they're fumbling around, aren't they? And it's like, let's see what works.
Just push all the buttons till it works. Just push them all.
Yeah. I do also like how, if you can notice the little call-outs, wherever there is a term that you might not understand. So, for example, planetary engineering, there's a little call-out at the side there, and it explains exactly what that is. Planetary engineering is the changing the climate and the topography of a planet, and perhaps even its position in space. So straight
That was
away,
something that was something I really loved about this book was you've got little points on the side on your margins that are referencing different pages to, hey,
yes,
come back to this place, and that, which is really nice, because again, it's a book that shows you that, oh, you need to look at this. You don't need to remember where it was in the book. I'm going to tell you here. Now you're not having to flip through the whole book.
yeah.
When you're on page 100 to go back to page 13 to find something.
Yes, and the version I am looking at now is the non-hyperlinked version as to the digital book, but there is a hyperlinked one, so I would imagine that you could click on that, page 13, and it would take you right there, which of course is very, very handy. I mean, there you go. You could this planetary engineering. So they are changing the climate. So maybe you could imagine that there's some. You could make a story. I could make a story right now. There's some faction, some warlord that is causing issue with neighboring villages, and he is seen as a dark mage, and he has a bracelet to which he is able to do a incantation on this bracelet that brings down thunder and lightning upon those who do not do his bidding, to which of course what he's actually doing is he's controlling a weather satellite that actually manipulates the weather of the planet within a certain sector, because of course they had, the ancient civilization had complete control. It was always sunny days unless they actually decided it's supposed to be a rainy day, yeah. But
Yeah.
he's been able to work it out through trial and error, and now he's using it as a weapon to obviously amass power and bring hardship to those who don't follow his commands. There you go. Great. I love it. I love
Petty. The petty things you can do with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. So it goes into more detail then of the actual setting. So class system, religion, language, literacy, the animals and creatures. So you go, 1 billion years in the future, all the animals we know in the 21st century are long gone. However, animal types of mammals, reptiles, insects, birds remain. Okay, but yes, the text might talk about rats, deers, flies or ravens, but the beasts being described are at least slightly different than the creatures we think of today. I mean, it gives you ultimate freedom, but I suppose could be a little bit intimidating.
Just a little. Just
a little. How do you describe, man's best friend, but it's not a dog? What is it? What is the?
Have you seen Treasure Planet from the Disney movie? Does not get enough love. There's a creature that is called Morph. He's adorable. But he's just this little pink blob that kind of floats and sits on your shoulder.
Yes.
And he'll change into anything. That's man's best friend right there.
Okay. All right. Yes. Is it an animated movie?
It is.
I've seen it.
What's
yes.
funny is, and it's kind of the same thing, because they also have advanced technology in that, but it's still just it has a very medieval feel to it, with a tavern and so yeah. That's just Morph is man's best friend.
In fact, yes, there you go. That's brilliant, because again, all the creatures that they find in that sort of world, none of them are recognizable, are they? They are, if anything, bacteria is possibly the closest visual link I can think of. It's just weird shapes that are changing and that they have bits sticking out of them. you know, but you can't sort of discern, you know, where's the front, where's the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good movie to get some idea of what some of the creatures might look like.
Yep.
Excuse me. So then, as it describes that the ninth world, the continents have all come together as one supercontinent, we're just looking at a small part of it. And this chapter 10 is looking at the Steadfast. The Steadfast comprises of 9 different countries, to which there is collectively the rulers are often called the 9 rival kings. The kings have queens and princes, so it is very much that sort of medieval setting. And it goes through then all of the major kingdoms. Again, giving you all the detail. I mean, this is, you know, you could sit down and just spend all your time reading this and thoroughly enjoying. There is actually so much to it. I mean, the time it must have taken for them to put all of this together. The City of Bridges. Fantastic, I love it. Because, of course, with everything coming together as one continent, it does mean that the rest of the planet is all ocean. And how far do you sail west? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, would people then would not know, they would not venture, would they? They'd have to be incredibly brave to do so. Saying that, of course, maybe they get access to some form of technology. I do like the idea of characters going down into underground caverns and finding massive underground metropolis, because of course the sands have built up over time, and maybe this is where the ancient civilization, maybe we get 1 or 2, maybe the Earth has got to a point where, and I'm doing a Star Wars reference here, but it's a little bit like Coruscant, where it's multiple layers, and there are many places underground caverns, but you go from one civilization down into another civilization's layer. But there is
like the thought of like underground is just so terrifying to me.
Why is that?
Because think about that. If there is a civilization that has survived under there, think of what they've had to do to survive, to adapt, living underground. They'd be so utterly different, to the point where, I mean, look at some of the horror movies and that, where they do have creatures that have survived underground and adapted, where, you know, it's the milky skin, blind eyes, heightened sense of smell. Like, that is just terrifying, because chances are they're not very friendly.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken about this kind of thing before, haven't we? Underwater, yeah. But yes, maybe, yeah. In these dark depths. Or certainly, maybe the civilizations maybe have gone, but maybe the creatures of that time. So, you know, it'd be the equivalent of us finding dinosaurs that are alive in the Lost Kingdom. So maybe we find, as much as our animals that we've got on the land are bizarre and wonderful as is, but maybe we find even more bizarre animals down in the depths somewhere.
See, scary. Don't do it, guys. Just leave it alone. Don't do it.
So we then go on to the Beyond, and as it says here, the Beyond is a very steadfast, eccentric term used essentially to describe any area of the world that isn't part of the 9 kingdoms. So I think I showed you there was that ridge of mountains. It's anything past the ridge of mountains, that is the Beyond. These are the areas that have not been explored massively, or certainly there are people out there, but maybe it's slightly more rural, it's slightly more, They're not the cultured areas. But again, you know, the map, all this artwork, all these maps and all the landmarks that they highlight on this, and you can just keep on reading. So from a GM's point of view, there's so much information for you to be able to create an adventure in. Oh my goodness, I can't even say that. Cassilian? Cassilian jungle?
I don't know, I struggled with the chat. I was like,
Aha! I'm going to go with that then. Because no one's going to argue on that one. But it's a great big star. That's what I see. It's a great big star. And then... oh, too far. There's just so much stuff. It's absolutely wonderful. So... we keep going for many, many pages. Because... and again, all this artwork that is depicting things that... yeah, hard for you to describe. Because they've had to create a world that is just something beyond our comprehension.
mm-hmm.
But hey, look at this one. Is that Vibar, the city of night? Is that an underground city? Because it's showing you a side view. Is the city...
I mean, it could be.
Yes, here we go. Oh my goodness. Oh, here we go. Hang on. Hang on. The people of Vibar farm fungi in the lower part of the cavern. They harvest it for food, textiles, and a wide variety of medicinal uses. Rope and pulley elevator platforms connect the buildings with the fungus farms far below. The farms are lit by glow globes and other artificial lights, so that from the city looking down, the bottom of the cavern seems like the night sky. Conversely, the farms look up at the city in the same way. So yes, so down at the bottom of this cavern, there are mushroom farms, and up in the stalactites is an entire interconnected city. And depending where you are stood, it looks as if there is the twinkling of stars. If you look up or if you look down, that's quite amazing. So there we go.
Don't get disorientated. don't get drunk and go, oh, that looks like I'm looking up, right? And you're falling. Just all of a sudden falling.
And yeah, we got another city here, Guran. Again, there's just so much information.
But it's so worth the read. Like, go through it, like learn about it. It's so good. They put a lot of thought and effort into this.
I'll get the name wrong, but we'll go with Neelish. Neelish, the city of Neelish, an ancient machine, likely once a mobile vehicle city of some kind. So that's making me think of that Peter Jackson movie. I think we've spoken about this before, haven't we? You know, where all the nations have taken their cities and make them mobile, yep. And they travel around. And
oh gosh, now I can't think of it. I knew exactly.
Yeah.
Any other time, I know the movie title, and now.
Yes. So there you go. So we can have mobile cities, or maybe they're not mobile anymore. You know, maybe they no longer have the fuel, or nobody knows how to control them. Maybe that is part of some kind of adventure. Again, there is just no limits on where your imagination might want to take. So that's kind of the beyond. And then, of course, well, what is beyond the beyond? Because we have a chapter called Beyond the Beyond. There's even more.
This is the Beyond from Bed Bath and Beyond. This is it, folks. We're finally gonna find out what is in the Beyond.
So, my goodness, there is just so much. So, I've never quite experienced a role-playing game that goes into so much information about its world. This seems so comprehensive, and you then just got to doff your cap that it's all being created by the team of writers, which is all
Mortal Engines.
amazing.
Yep, Roger got it in the chat. Mortal Engines.
Well done, Roger. Well done. So we then go on to organizations. There is one religion across this world, and then it sort of splits down into they sort of describe it as the main church, and then there's lots of little sort of priories sort of coming out from that. So it goes into some of the detail there. And then we go on to creatures, and this is, I mean, my goodness, excuse me a second. Excuse me. This is where we then have just this amazing creature art of things that I will not be able to pronounce, and we can't sort of quite describe. But it goes into all the detail of what these creatures are. Abikos. Abikos is generally accepted to be a ghost by most people, but is in fact a trans-dimensional entity. Oh my goodness.
It's very creepy looking. I don't like that I can see its insides. I don't want to see that.
Yeah. And then Anine. It's a herd animal. See, that's the thing. You can categorize these creatures into, what we could consider. So there'll be something like, cattle, something like horses for transport, but they will be completely different. I like the idea of something that is so visually ferocious with, spined sort of quills and big fangs and things like that. But actually, it's kind of like a herbivore. It's like totally peaceful, but it visually looks.
And it's very much like I don't like conflict.
Yes, yeah. I suppose ultimately, you've got to be able to sort of justify its evolution. It's sort of survived for millions of years. It's evolved in such a way. I think you could have a lot of fun creating
armadillo meets
unique
porcupine.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's an armadillo porcupine hybrid.
We still, as it said, we still have birds, we still have reptiles, we still have mammals, but how?
Oh, I can think of a use for the armadillo porcupine hybrid.
Oh, go on.
It's something that humans or whatever race, but it's something that we bred and manipulated so that it became like that because we use their quills for different things.
Right.
Whether it's, to stitch things up, or whether it's to write with, or for weaponry.
Well, that's what we would use it for now, but why did it evolve naturally, or was it bioengineered?
No, we did it. That's why I said it was something that we engineered.
Right, to
produce these items.
Yes, but you're saying that it must have been bioengineered by one of the previous civilizations, because remember, our current civilization does not understand that. So it's got to be.
But if it is a herbivore, it could easily survive in the caves where there's mushroom caves.
Okay.
Because both porcupines and armadillos are nocturnal, so they'd be okay in the darks and that. So.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, we won't. I like that. I like that creature, the Seski, resembling a large dog. See, there we go. This is what dogs look like now. So yes, in urban, it's a motive, hunger or loyalty. So yes, there you go. That's the dog replacement. But I don't like then the next one. We'll move past that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that one.
Yeah. Everything else we're okay with.
Yeah.
You know.
Why is that the thing that has to survive, though? Why is that something that continues the imagery? Why?
I mean, we've got this Travaonisul. I mean, it's all tentacles and its teeth and its claws. We're okay with that, but anything spider-like. Exactly.
We can't do it. Why is that the imagery that survives for all these years? Just stop it. Make it go away.
And then we got this large... Is that a Zai Drake? Again, you know, I suppose there you go. Avatar would be a good example for some of the creatures, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Get some inspiration from there. And even the world of Pandora, you know, again, if one of these civilizations was able to control the laws of physics, we can have floaty mountains. So we can have a region of floaty mountains. Maybe that's a region where it defies gravity. Maybe it's maybe there was something in the past that some sort of experiment that this is a pocket of area that gravity doesn't quite work in the same way, so that all the player characters can have an extra. You know, it's like gravity is 1/10 of Earth's normal, so you can fly effectively, become super powered, flying and jumping and leaping from rock to rock. That's quite cool. It goes through then some non-player character types. Just giving you plenty of info. And then actually talking about the Numenera. The Numenera is the name for all of these things, all these weird and wonderful things that are found from these ancient civilizations. That's the collective name. And it goes into the detail of the actual technologies and how the people of the Ninth World use them now. As I say, these items once served a purpose. We don't know what that purpose was. We don't sort of care. We learn what it does for the here and now, and then use it for that. So as it says, maybe this protective shield, we're going to use it to protect us from combat, but maybe it was a protective bubble around a sort of antimatter energy source. But that has long since gone, and we just have the device that creates the bubble, and that's what we use as a defective shield for us. I like that idea. And so there are plenty of charts that you can roll on that tells you what actually happens with the actual the cipher that you are using. Plenty of charts. Oh, gone too fast. There you go. Charts of actually when you find ciphers, because they are relatively plentiful if you spend a little bit of time just searching around. And they are, the way that the game's been designed is that it's less about thinking of these ciphers as prized equipment that you want to hold on and cherish, and more as if they, certainly with the ciphers, they're sort of one-shot skills that you're able to take advantage of that give you that bonus for that here and now to try and get past whatever the obstacle might be. So, you know, use them. Feel free to use them. So shall we find out what cipher potentially we might have for our character? Should we do a roll?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. Let's see what we're going to get. We always like to find a chart and roll something. Okay, here we go. And just realised I need a D100, don't I?
Yeah.
Because a 20-sided dice is not going to give us the result we want.
Well, it might.
It might. I haven't actually got.
If one of the first 20 is what we want.
We got 4. That's not gonna help. And yeah, I've not got my dice here. I've literally, I can't do it, can I? That's a bit daft. Okay. Well, we could. I could roll this dice 5 times and add it all up.
You could, yeah.
Okay, we got 4. Go on, let's do that.
Okay.
We're up to 16. We are up to 24. So we're hard. Hang on, that's roll 3. 24. Uh, 30. That's 40. Last roll. 55. There we go. That wasn't too painful. 55. Metal death. Okay, what is metal death?
Nothing good.
Well, not nothing good to anybody who's giving us issue. Okay, so we'll just scroll through. We'll find metal death. Here it is. A wrist-mounted sprayer produces a stream of foam that covers an area of about 3 feet by 3 feet, transforming any metal that it touches into a substance as brittle as thin glass. The foam affects metal to a depth of about 6 inches. Okay. So basically, it instantly erodes metal. So that would be very handy if we did find ourselves in some kind of underground cavern that had steel bulkheads and we are trying to explore. We could spray an area and it would just dissolve and we would just be able to sort of smash it gently with the hilt of our sword, and that all that metal would just disintegrate.
Or if we're trying to sink a ship, if it had any metal on the hull.
This is true. Yes, this is true. So okay, well that was cool. So there's as you can see, there's a whole load of different ciphers here that can be used. I do like. I hope I'm right in saying this. These swords, they are built with a kind of nanite technology, so that it is just a hilt that you have, and you can press your button, and nanites shoot out of the hilt to then form the blade. So long as there's a power source, you can so it's fully charged, you can then click your button again and the nanites retreat back into the hilt. If the power source runs out, then they stay as a permanent sword. So it's kind of a medieval lightsaber, which is really cool. Loving it, love it. So your ciphers are your sort of one-use items. And then it goes on to artifacts. These are pieces of equipment that would get more sort of usage from them. They're ongoing. And I like how these artifacts have little quirks. Your artifact creates a terrible smell. or is activated by sound. The user must hum, whistle, sing, or speak in a specific way. You know?
That's really cool. It's very it makes me think of Guardians of the Galaxy with the arrow.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, like it.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, whatever your artifact is, it sickens the user. All tasks are hindered for 1 minute. So you activate this artifact and it just makes you nauseous. Which is quite cool. We've got the other chart on the other side. So what could possibly make you nauseous? The Fear Maker. Or maybe the what is it? The Murder Globe.
The Murder Globe.
What is a Murder Globe?
It's a good time, is what it is.
Well, yeah. Oh goodness me! Hang on a second. There we go. Hopefully that's solved that. Yeah, no, Murder Globe. Like the idea of that. Is that like a miniature Death Star? Is that what a Murder Globe is? In fact,
I mean, that's what I'm picturing.
in fact, no need to ask. There are descriptions. We can find the Murder Globe. I need to find what page it's on. There we go. Okay, so typically it's the page that doesn't have a picture. There it is. Murder Globe. A tall, collapsible metal tripod with a large metal globe at the top. The globe has a number of holes in it, but it is not hollow. It takes 2 rounds to assemble and set up this device, and then it requires an action to activate. When activated, this device does nothing for 5 rounds. After that, if anything larger than a mouse comes within long range of it, the globe fires a powerful projectile at that target. The projectile inflicts damage equal to the artifact level. The device can attack up to 10 times per round, but it never attacks the same target more than once per round. It remains on watch for 28 hours or until it has made 100 attacks, whichever comes first. The Murder Globe.
Wow. Oh, wow.
That is what we want. So it's a little bit like the sentry guns in Aliens, but just a bit cooler.
Yeah. That is wow.
I'm thinking Alien sentry guns, but with a 1970s disco ball. I think it should play. It should play music as it's firing out these awesome projectiles.
But like the most like just like elevator music. That's what it plays. It's doing it.
Yes. Please stay calm as we kill you.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Oh, here we go. We do have an image, not necessarily of a Murder Globe. Oh, gone too far. There you go, look at that. I'm hoping that that's not the Doctor.
That is that battle armor? Is that what it's saying that is?
It could be the repair sphere. Or maybe it is.
Yeah.
It says looking for battle armor. Where's that? Where's that?
Yeah.
That's 292.
29.
But
Yeah.
what's referenced battle armor? Or is this just the helpful hints that the book has throughout? But that looks like a repair sphere because it does have calipers and grabby hands and drills. So yeah, I'd say that was what it was. Oh my goodness. Oh, here we go. This is what every kid wants for Christmas. A wind slice blade. Or is it the Wind Rider? It's a Wind Rider. This vehicle can be ridden by someone who makes a difficulty 1 speed roll each round. In combat, it moves a long distance each round, but on extended trips can move up to 80 miles per hour.
See,
Well,
I'm telling you, Treasure Planet. This is the gliders that they use. The little. Oh, love it! I love it so much.
I'm just thinking of that James Bond film with Pierce Brosnan when he fashions a sort of you know the one where he's down on the ice, isn't he? And he comes down with a parachute. Yep. Yeah. very, very, very cheesy, but there we go. Okay, and so once we finish looking at artifacts, we then have oddities and discoveries. So oddities are things that have no real intrinsic value, but can be used for trading. And so again, because these are things that are beyond our time, it's quite interesting to see. Here we go. Oh, blob of clay that takes on various mysterious shapes when left alone. Okay, so we've got the clay. Just it is animated clay.
The husband and I have been watching Agents of Shield.
Oh right.
That to me, the blob of clay that'll just animate. That is very much like what they've used as the monolith that just sucks people into a different planet.
Right.
And it's terrifying.
Yes. 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 Roll a 28 and you get a bag of 16 rubber balloons. Woohoo!
Oh, fun! Can we make balloon animals with them?
Well, this is it. Maybe somebody will spend all their time working out what they can do. 39 gives you a feathered hat that occasionally makes bird noises.
Aw.
Whereas...
Don't wear that while you're trying to sneak.
Whereas roll 100 gives you a pair of clear drinking glasses that change colour depending on the contents. See? See? These are the things that ancient civilizations are going to pass on.
That could be so cool though, because it depending on its contents, it doesn't say that it has to be liquid. Like, what if it's your drink is poisoned and it changes color when it's poisoned, and it alerts you to something like that?
Oh, there we go. There we go. See, helpful use. But remember, the idea being is that you would have this item, you would not know what that was until potentially it could be too late. But you would learn through trial and error, wouldn't you?
Exactly, experimentation.
Yes.
Although it would be really interesting to see, like, if that was the use, it'd be interesting to see how sensitive you wanted to make it, because technically alcohol is a poison. So if you poured alcohol into it and it lights up the color that it is saying, oh, look, it's a poison, but you drink it and nothing happened, you're like, it's fine. It lit up that color before and I drank out of it. It's totally fine. And then you drink something out of it that's a deadly poison. And it's like, oh, well,
oops,
that's bad.
Yeah, no, like it, like it. So we have more items there which we go through, and then this final part 7, running the game. This is we're getting into, I mean, a lot of that area of course is for your games master to go through, but this is giving you guidance on basically how the GM would be running the game. Goes through selecting difficulty ratings, and I've actually found that this gives a new GM lots of really useful information. I mean, even how it's written, and I think it does start off, I'm just going to just say, here you go, here you go. Unlike in the rest of this book, I'm going to write this section from me to you. I'm addressing you, the games master, or potential games master, directly, because you are vital to turning a halfway decent game into an amazing game. In uninformed hands, even the greatest rules and the greatest setting will make at best a mediocre game. You are the key in this process. And I really like that, you know, the designer...
Your GM appreciation.
Yeah, well, you know, I believe Monte Cook has obviously made lots of games here. A very, very experienced role player, and you're taking full advantage of all that experience in this this rule set. Having, you know, probably GM'd so many games, and just, you know, speaking to you as one GM to another, which is great.
Well, and it's also, you know, you get those GMs who are unfortunately just always the GM and never a player because nobody else wants to do it. So, you know, you get a rule system like this where the creators are going, hey, you are what makes this game amazing. Is just like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. I do. I mean, again, we spoke about it earlier. I like how all of the roles are the responsibilities of the player. And I think that possibly, because it is, to say it's rules light, I don't want to make that sound as if it's a negative. I think that's actually a huge positive, because it then does allow the GM the freedom to be able to spend the time on the story, to have the understanding of the world, and to keep that level of immersion with the players alive. So the players are concentrating on the roles, things like that. The GM can focus in on other areas. Oh, have I gone past this art? Oh, here we go. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Again, you know,
Isn't
the art,
so pretty? Just, oh.
The art throughout is just it's of a really high standard, but it's just so imaginative. You know, I can't imagine what the brief will have been at the time. Okay, I want you to make what looks like a camel, but it can't look anything like a camel.
Right. Make a camel, but don't make a camel.
Don't make a camel.
What?
And then
what?
going through to teach about how to make a story. So again, all of this is great for new GMs and even experienced GMs. There's a lot of great material here to read through that can improve your games. Oh wow, hang on a second, here's a cool image. Look at that one in the top right.
Oh wow.
That's quite something, isn't it? Because again, of course, you know, as much as we might be envisaging our player characters as human, but it did say that at least a few of these civilizations were non-human. That, you know, we've had alien species come to our planet and inhabit on... I can't even say it's our planet anymore, can we? That's part of the point. And so right at the end here, it gives you an example of play with 4 characters and the GM. And then, because the setting is such an important part, we do have a chapter on realizing the 9th world. Which is really good. And giving you plenty of ideas for different adventures. Because, I mean, as we say, you can potentially travel into, well, you're medieval, but we do know that there is satellites, so you potentially could have an excuse to go into orbit, even though you wouldn't quite know what was happening. Maybe you were being transported by some kind of trans-dimensional technology, but that is you passing over into another sort of dimension. Maybe there are gateways that you can go through that can teleport you to different parts of the planet, or into the satellites above, which would be terrifying for somebody. Well, I suppose it would it be, because it depends on their level of knowledge, wouldn't it? If we think of medieval times, we didn't appreciate that the world went around the sun. it depends how much of the old knowledge is still passed through. That'd be an interesting thing to explore. You know. So, and then finally, right at the very back here, there are a series of, there's 4 adventures. I won't go any further because we do not want to ruin those. But as you can see, there's a lot, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
The starter set, it is a few of these elements condensed down. It's enough for the players to understand how their characters fit into the world, to understand a little bit about the world, and to then have enough information for the GM to go through a story to get players involved. And then there's a little bit extra which ultimately presents some extra creatures, so you can continue play of your own stories. But I think ultimately, if you've got the starter set, if you've enjoyed the adventure that you've played out, the next thing for you to do is to get the core rules, because that then gives you the total freedom to be able to explore everything that the Ninth World has to offer. And it has a lot to offer. So, there we go. Wow.
This game is so much. It's so much to take in, but so worth it.
Yeah. I'm very excited about this. Will be. I mean, I've gone through it enough to be able to get a reasonable idea of it, but I do want to sit down and do a full read. But as you can see, it's 400 pages in one book, and you've got double that. So there's so much more for me to read through. And as I say, I believe that the game has been around for plus 10 years. There are plenty of supplements for the game, so it goes into so much detail. You can really spend a huge amount of time within the Ninth World. And then the actual game system, the cipher system, is something that they have actually sort of taken out, and there is the cipher system rulebook where we take the theme and the setting, remove that, and have just the core mechanics to which then you can apply any theme you want. That's something that we will look at a later date to go through, because that in its own right is quite amazing. The possibilities of the types of games that you can run using the cipher system, well, just down to your imagination and what you and your players want to experience.
Sure.
So there we go.
And that comes, I think a lot of that are these games, is a lot of it comes down to your imagination. Just
yes,
how far you're willing to take it.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, production quality in these books is absolutely amazing. It's really, really high. Paper is all good stock. They're all stitch bound. As I say, we've got the little bookmarks that are incredibly useful for being able to quickly get to various relevant chapters. You've got those nice posters in the back there so that you can realize what the Ninth World looks like. Comes in a nice slipcase, so it's nice on your shelf. Yeah, no, it looks really, really good. So this is definitely a game I will look forward to exploring more in the future. Just not millions of years into the future. I want to do it a little bit, a little bit closer to my timeline.
A little bit sooner than that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad
Thank you for having me. It was great to explore this one.
Good, awesome. We will have another game next Tuesday. It might be us venturing into the final frontier again. So that's going to be interesting.
Oh, no.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah, we'll see how we do.
I apologize in advance, everyone. I apologize in advance.
No, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. hang on a second, you know, you've got no frame of reference for this whatsoever, and you do fine. Star Trek's only in the 24th century. It's only a couple of hundred years.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's because like there is so much to reference for that.
Yeah, no, I get
versus this has no context. So it's like, I'm good with this, but this is established. I know nothing about this.
No, I totally get you on that. And yes, that probably is one of the biggest sort of, I don't want to call it an issue, but it's certainly a barrier to entry. But we will show you how easy it is, even if you know nothing about it. All the tools are there to help you along. But we will talk about that next week.
Yes.
All right.
Bye for now.
Okay, bye now. Okay, so there we go. Thanks to Mystical for joining in on tonight's show, taking a look at Numenera from Monte Cook Games. Yeah, really enjoy it. Think it looks fantastic. So much amazing information to explore and to get your imagination going. So if you wanted to play a fantasy medieval sci-fi game a billion years into the future, then this is definitely one to check out. No stream tomorrow night. Next stream will be on Thursday, where we'll be playing a game that will involve bees and honey and bears and pancakes. You'll just have to join us on Thursday to find out what all of that means. But until then, bye for now.